Everyone, welcome to the first vlog of BookTube Prize 2024 nonfiction group B. I don't know why I can't get the group number in my head. I think it's B. So I'm in the car. I'm out doing errands. I just picked up 4 books and I've downloaded a audiobook for What an Owl Knows. And then I've got Built from the Fire by Victor Luckerson, Crossings by Ben Goldfarb, Master Slave Husband Wife by Ilyon, and the Hilary Mantel Memoir. So I wasn't expecting to get all 4 of these right away. That's just the sun. I love the sun. It's so nice to have the sun. Anyway, I wasn't expecting to get all 4 of these today. So not exactly sure what order I'm going to read them in. I think I'm going to start with this one because it's the biggest to get through. And I'm going to take you along with me. I'm definitely going to start the audiobook as well because I've already finished my audiobook for April and it's only April 9th today. So I'm just going to go ahead and listen to a second audiobook this month and get that one out of the way. And so, yeah, I'm obviously not going to read all 4 of these this month, but I will probably do a vlog with featuring 3 of these books. 3 books and 3 books. So it's the beginning. I'm pretty happy with my group. It's a really diverse group. So there's nothing here that you can really compare to. There's 2 historical, 1 memoir, 1 environmental, and 1 animal. So that's quite a diverse group. So I will check in again with you when I have gotten halfway in one of the books. Hey everyone. Okay, so I've reached about 63% in listening to What an Owl Knows by Jennifer Ackerman. And it is a nice nonfiction book about owls. I don't think there's anything in it that I find particularly, unique or different from any other book about an animal that I've read. The information is well researched, obviously. The way that she's arranged the information is sort of interesting. So instead of dividing it up into sections based on the different types of owls, she's divided it up based on different stages of an owl's life, different parts of so breeding and the general habitat and those types of things. So as you're listening to the narrative, it's very much this owl does this, where this owl does that. And this scientist, is looking at this, and this scientist is looking at that. And so, you don't really get, the way I listen to a book like that, I'm not going to retain a lot of that information. Obviously, I don't need to retain it because I'm not studying for an exam about owls. But, I'm not really holding on to the information. But I will fully admit that that's not the type of reader I am when I'm reading nonfiction about an animal. So, so I'm enjoying listening to it for the most part. And I think that her point in writing this book was to express to people how unique owls are and how interesting they are and the kind of complexity of their different species, how complex they are as a species. And she's doing a good job of explaining that in the book. So that is my impression of it so far. And I will check in again with you when I have finished listening to it. Oh, and it's also narrated by Jennifer Ackerman herself. So sometimes, and she's a good narrator. She has a lot of enthusiasm in her words, and the kind of charming little parts she puts in about owls, she reads with a nice amount of emotion and involvement, and you can kind of hear her enthusiasm for the owls. So that's nice too. Yeah. So I'll check in again with you when I have finished the book. Hello. Okay, so today I finished listening to What an Owl Knows by Jennifer Ackerman. And it was a very fine book. I don't have a lot of other comments about it. I don't have much to add. It's a book about owls. She covers all the possible things you'd want to know: current research, future prospects, anecdotes. It was, very thorough and a good book about an animal. And the thing is that animal books are not my favorite, but I love owls. So it's not like I don't like owls, just that I wasn't doing research about owls, so I wasn't trying to retain the information, or I don't feel like, even though I learned lots of things about owls I didn't know, I don't feel like the book it didn't make me feel any like huge passion for owls, which I think was kind of her goal. I shouldn't say that. I do love owls. Like in my echelon of birds, the owl is up high, and I am a bird lover. But yeah, all I'm saying is, for me, when a book is included in the BookTube prize and you're reading and you're comparing it to other books, you want a subject matter that makes you feel some sort of passion or excitement or enthusiasm. And while I think the book was well written and is a good case for owls, it feels like it could have been a book about insert animal here, And maybe that's just because for me, reading books about animals is not a super inspiring subject matter for me. I have nothing against animals again, but just, yeah, I think from a perspective of reading about an animal, I usually prefer there to be more of a memoir angle of the book that is showing a personal connection to the animal from the perspective of the person writing. And that wasn't really what type of book this was, so it didn't have that. And so, yeah, that was my first finish. It was fine. I have no idea where I'm going to rate this book because I need to wait and see how the other ones come across as I finish them. I could easily see it being in my bottom 3. I could easily see it being in my top 3. It's kind of one of those books that it certainly won't be my number 1, because I hope one of these other books is going to compel me more and make me feel more, make me feel something, I guess. I guess that's the thing. I didn't really feel anything from this book. It didn't evoke anything. But we shall see. I will check in again. So I'm still reading Built from the Fire. I am hoping to get halfway through Built from the Fire this weekend. It would be great. I'm going to try to get there this weekend. And I think the next book I'm going to start is a memoir of my former self by Hilary Mantel. When I was listening to Heidi's review for My Reading Life, I didn't realize this is essays. So yeah, I think what I might do with this one is read it, like dip in and out, because essays you should kind of dip. In my opinion, you should dip in and out of the book and not read it continuously, because especially when essays have been compiled from different periods in a writer's life, there can be a lot of repetition. And so I would want to avoid feeling that, because it will obviously affect my rating of the book if I feel like it's repetitive. So I'm going to start dipping into this and continue with Built from the Fire. And I know that this one is has other holds on it at the library, so I need to get through this one. And Master, Slave, Husband, Wife also has holds at the library. So I want to make sure that these two I get to sooner rather than later. And then I also decided today to put the audiobook of Doppelganger by Naomi Klein on my list, on hold as well. So I put myself, I'm on hold for the regular book and I'm on hold for the audiobook, and whichever one I get first, I will go with. Yeah. So that is my reading update for today, and I will check in again with you when I've gotten halfway through Built from the Fire. Good morning, everybody. I am halfway through Built from the Fire, the epic story of Tulsa's Greenwood District, America's Black Wall Street by Victor Luckerson. So, the subtitle basically explains what this book is. It's a work of history, American history. Very important work, I would say, because it really distills down a town, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and explains the reality for Black folk who moved there from different parts of the United States to try to live in freedom and be entrepreneurs and create lives with meaning. And they were able to do that for quite a while, but so many things impeded them, including a terrible massacre, really, where the white folk in the town incited a riot. This was around a potential lynching of a man who had been most likely falsely accused of something, and burnt down a whole swath of homes and businesses that then created like a deficit in many of the people's lives, where they had to try to rebuild, but they were and it was just like one obstacle after another. So what Luckerson does is he follows several different families, sets us up to understand why they came to Tulsa, how they established their businesses, whatever their businesses happened to be, and then how they were affected by these riots and by subsequent things like World War II, the Ku Klux Klan, Jim Crow, etc. That's where we are right now. They are just post World War II, I guess we're up into the 1950s now, and we're continuing to follow these families and the ways in which American history, African American history, is tying into their lives. So it is a very well put together, well researched book. It's a little bit difficult to read it from a perspective of someone who is not studying this very specifically. I think if I was writing an essay or a book, or I was trying to learn more of this history for a specific purpose, I feel like I would be more engaged with it. It is well written. I am invested in most of the people that Luckerson has shared about. I am invested in what happens to them. But for the most part, I don't think this is a book that I would go to normally just for reading, obviously not for pleasure. I mean, there's a lot of terrible things that happen in it, but also just not an area of particular interest for me. But I can totally understand why it's an important story to bring to light and to share with people so that they understand the extent of systemic racism and how it affects people, everyday people trying to live their lives. And so that's a really important point that this book makes. So that's all I have to say about it for now. I will check in again when I have finished it. Hey everyone. So I just wanted to update you a little bit on my status right now with my BookTube prize reading. I have to admit I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So I have finished one book. It is the end of April. It's the last week of April. It's not the end yet. There's still a week left before the end, I think. Yes. Nope. 5 days. 5 days left of April. I have started reading, where am I? Started reading Hilary Mantel's book. I am over halfway with Built from the Fire. And I just picked this up today, which is super on demand at the library. So this is the next book I have to read. I basically have to finish Built from the Fire in the next few days and then start this one. And I still have Master, Slave, Husband, Wife to start, which is also on demand at the library. And then Crossings, which is going to be the last one I read, I think, because it's not on demand at the library. So I'll be able to renew it. And it's going to have to wait till the end. So I'm feeling like these are all, over 300 pages books. I think the problem for me is that, as I said when I checked in about this, that I'm just not super engaged by it. It's not a bad book by any means. It's just not, it's not drawing me back to it to read. It's got very little that I feel compelled to return to. And so getting through it has been really challenging. But anyway, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to finish this by the end of the weekend, and because I just have to. And I don't have, I would have way preferred to have 3 books finished by the end of April, because that means that May is going to be completely dominated by a BookTube prize reading. And I think the size of these books is part of the problem. It's just they're all large, long books. There's not really an easy one other than the audio book, which was pretty easy to get under the belt. Like the rest of them are just taking longer. And I really hope that one of these other 3 is like super, super good. So I just want to read it constantly, because I have not been experiencing that with the others. And that makes it even harder to get through them. So that's my update for you for now. And I will check in again when I have finished Built from the Fire. Hey everybody. I finished Built from the Fire by Victor Luckerson. Oh, Luckerson. Sorry, not Reckerson. This took me such a long time to read. I don't know. I think it is a long book. It's, 483 pages, almost 500 pages. And the font is dense. The information is dense. So I think it's a great piece of African American history, really important to document the Tulsa Massacre and the Greenwood community and how they have persevered despite systemic racism for, 100 years. In terms of a reading experience, I think that the information was delivered in the most readable way possible. I think it was just difficult for me because it was quite dense. There's a lot of names. He did a great job of making you care about the people who he was featuring. But, as an overall reading experience, I think it's just, when it's such a personal piece of history, even though, like I've said, I think already, as a microcosm of the greater experience of being Black in America, I think this is, there's so many parts of this that are really important about Black history. Martin Luther King Jr. visited here. There's just lots of pieces of history that are reflected in the story of the Greenwood Massacre and of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I think, it's a really important book, but it's one of those things where when you're reading a personal history of a place that you don't have any attachment to, it's a little bit tricky to get through a book like this when you're not researching this place specifically or looking for something. So as I think this is a good book, I think in it having personal appeal to a large group of people, it just doesn't have that for me. But it was very well done, and I am glad that I finished reading it. So I have already started Hilary Mantel's Memoir. So I am going to continue reading that one, and that will be where this reading vlog will end, when I'm finished that one. So I will check in with you when I'm halfway through that book. Hi everyone. Okay, I'm checking in for a memoir of my former self by Hilary Mantel. I'm halfway, and I don't think this is actually a memoir. For me, there are reflective moments when she's talking about her life and herself in this collection, but it wasn't written with the intent of being a memoir. This is a collection of Hilary Mantel's work posthumously. And I feel like that's a really important thing a really important distinction. Because when you're going to put together a writer's writing, when they are not there to guide the process, it was done by her editor, who's edited her books for many, many years, who says that they know her, and I'm sure they did know her. But there are essays in here that are not that interesting, that are, from movies from a long time ago, or from obscure books, or from, some random thoughts. And they just don't flow very well to me. There are some very interesting essays in here. Her essay about having endometriosis was fascinating. One of the essays about living in Saudi Arabia was very interesting. And I think for me, the ones that I've enjoyed the most are the ones that are the most reflective of her and are talking about her life, as opposed to, some movie reviews and book reviews, which are just not that interesting and are not relevant to her personal journey or to her, to her life. So why are they in here? I feel like this should have been edited differently and put together in a different way, where they put some of the essays, you could have written, called it Hilary Mantel's collected works, reviews, and something like that. Like, that's what the kind of book you want to put that in, because this implies that there's some sort of a cohesive memoir to this, and there isn't. So it's a lot of jumping around. Some of the essays are good, some of them I just don't find that interesting. And that's where I am with the memoir of my former self. So I will check in again with you when I have finished it. Hey everybody. So I finished Hilary Mantel, a memoir of my former self, A Life in Writing, last night. And I think I'm going to be in the minority. I think, judging by the Goodreads on this book, I think I'll be in the minority of putting this as... there's some really great essays in here. And I think I especially enjoyed reading the ones that related to her Wolf Hall series of books. Hearing, kind of her thoughts about the actual history of Thomas Cromwell and Anne Boleyn and some different characters was really entertaining. And I also really enjoyed her more personal essays that are included in here. But I stand by what I said before. I think that this should have been published differently. I think if you would have made a compendium of some of these essays together into smaller books, maybe even put all the Wolf Hall ones together and then created a set of the 3 Wolf Hall books plus the essays, I think that would be a really just a better way to package this. It's not really a memoir, it's a collection of essays, and some of the essays are self-reflective and a lot of them aren't. So they don't feel like memoir to me. And so it detracts from, the essays that are really good and really strong are detracted because there's some others that are just not as interesting or not as pertinent to me to be included in the collection. So I don't know how this will rank. Obviously, this is the 3rd book. Out of the 3 books that I've read so far, I am putting this in 3rd just because I think the format really detracts from it. And I think that publishers should be more careful about how they put works together. This is her last book. Well, this is, a book they've published posthumously. You have to be careful about how these things are packaged, how they're put together, how they honor the work of the person who they are, where they come from. They have to honor Hilary Mantel's legacy, her work, and I'm assuming that the editor, her editor and the publisher think that this does that, but to me it does not. I think it could have been put together in a better way. And I think some of these essays are just not as good as the others. So that's how I feel about this. I'm going to wrap up this vlog here, and I am going to start the next one for the next 3 books that I'm reading. Thank you so much for watching, and I will either have already posted or will be posting a full ranking video where I talk about why I put the books in whatever order I do. And I will see you then. Thanks so much for watching.